feelings follow actions. You can't feel your way into acting. You have to act your way into feeling. And that's what I talk with people about. Take a step.
Power to Live More with Joe Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Jo Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello, my name is Ellie Dodds and I am co-presenter, and today Joe is interviewing Michael Alan Tate. Michael was introduced to us by Interview Valet. Michael has been an executive consultant and career coach for more than 20 years. He is the founder and president of On the Same Page Consulting, as well as an inspiring speaker and author. His first book, Design a Life That Works, teaches how to balance businesses, career, family and personal values in an individual strategic life plan. Mike's latest book, The White Shirt, is a career parable with tools to create successful career move strategies. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Michael Alan Tate of On the Same Page Consulting. Welcome, Michael, or Mike, as you've said I can call you.
Yes. Well, thank you, Joe. It's an honor to be here and to talk with you across the pond, so to speak. And Yeah, thanks.
Lovely. So start by telling us a bit about who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
Sure. What I do is I help people make successful transitions in their leadership in their life. I'm an executive coach, they call me, and a career advisor. The two things I do. I work with organizations mainly, and I work with boards of directors, and I facilitate strategic plans. I work with executives, about a third of my time one-on-one with executives, and about a third of my time with executive teams. So that's kind of what I do in my work. I've written 3 books, and so I do some writing. I have a blog. I have my own podcast called Small Time Leaders, and I'm a grandfather. I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and I raise English setters. I quail hunt, and I fly fish, and I just like to travel and spend time with my beautiful wife. So that's a little bit about me.
Lovely. And where are you based?
I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, not Birmingham, England, as you can tell from the accent. The heart of the South, so the Magic City, Birmingham. Yep.
Lovely. And I think it's a few firsts for the podcast. We've not had a quail hunter on here before, or somebody who raises red setters. I'm intrigued with both of those things. How many do you have at any one time? Red setters, that is, not quails.
Well, I have, the most I've had is 5. Right now we have 3, and I have one that stays with me, and I have 2 others that stay with other kind of houses with other people. And really, quail hunting is not what I do as much as training bird dogs to point and hold and honor. And that, I mean, the beauty of quail hunting is you can get up at 9 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock in the morning. You can walk around and watch your dogs work in the field and have conversation, and they point and hold quail and retrieve. And it's just the joy of seeing the dogs work. It's just a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yeah. You've painted a good picture there for me. I'm currently dog sitting for my friend, and her dog is a cockapoo, so I don't think he does very much pointing at all. In fact, he's quite good at running after birds, but not very good at controlling himself. So we won't be doing any hunting, I don't think.
No, I don't think that there's any hunting blood in that line of dogs. So.
But it's Cocker Spaniel. They're quite good at being trained. But when you connect them to the poodle bit of it, I think it all goes a bit horribly wrong. He's very cute and cuddly, but
they are, right.
We won't be doing too much training.
they like to run and bark and chase,
Yes,
and
exactly.
slowing down and getting on point. And if you saw my symbol of my company, it's a bird dog on point. And the point of that is that the best leaders have the ability to sort through all the bluebirds and redbirds and rabbits and squirrels and point the thing that's most important and stay on point on that. And that's why I have that as the symbol of my On the Same Page company.
Ah,
It's my logo. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, good to know. So tell us about how you got into doing that.
Yeah, well, I kind of have a checkerboard past. I'd never really planned to do this. I worked for UPS and I went through school and they trained me, and I was planning to be with UPS. And then I had an incident where I had a terrible accident and had about a year to sit and think about what I wanted to do with my life, really, and decided that I had pursued a higher calling, in my words, with being a minister. Went to seminary, and I enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I was a church administrator. I wasn't a pastor, so I ran churches and headed up the education program at large churches in here, and had done that for a while. I was good at it, but it was really stressful, and I got really stressed. Actually went in the hospital with almost a nervous breakdown because of the stress and that I felt. And so I decided to leave the professional ministry, and I didn't know what to do. So I went to a career counselor, and he didn't really know what to do because he gave me some tests, and then he said, you should be a human resource director. And they sent out like 300 or 400 resumes, and I sat there and got one response and had one interview, and it didn't go very well. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? I got all this education, I've got all the credentials to do what I need to do, but I can't find work. And I remember how depressed I got, even more depressed than I had when I was working, thinking, what is it? And then I realized one day that it wasn't me. It was, I just chose the world's worst way to find a job, which is sending out resumes and kind of, going a shotgun approach. And so I decided at that time I was going to figure out how really people could really make good career transitions in a simple, easy way, because I didn't want anyone to go through what I went through with this career counselor guy. And so that's where I started my career as a career advisor. That's what I did for 10 years when I worked with people who had actually lost their jobs, and I helped them find new ones. And now from that, I went into what I do now, which is helping people stay in their jobs and do better at their work. So that's kind of my career path and where I got to now. And anyway. So.
And I'm interested in the sort of work you did as a career advisor, given the experience that you'd had. Because it's interesting, when I was at school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I did some sort of assessment like you've described. And I don't remember much about it, other than one of the things it said I should be was a customs officer. And I've remembered that my whole life, because clearly I'm not, and I never was a customs officer, and I'm sure it wouldn't have been my thing to do. And yet the career advisor was adamant that was one of the things that I would have been good at. And it's interesting, isn't it? With my daughter, she's 13. She's just starting to think. I'm sure she's been thinking for a while about what she'd like to do, because people ask her that all the time. But she has no idea, the same as I didn't. Right. And we know a lot of jobs that exist, that will exist in the future, don't exist now anyway. So it's an interesting sort of place to be. What did you do with your people? How did you help them? Knowing what the downsides were of career advising, because you'd experienced them. What did you do differently?
It's in my new book called The White Shirt. It's how to find a peaceful, life-giving career in a life-giving way. And what I wrote in that book is what I did with people. And what I did with people, in essence, to simplify it, and I can give you more detail on how we got there, but I helped them develop, instead of developing a resume first, we developed a career plan for their lives. And so, like, if you're going to start a business, what would you do first? Develop a brochure or develop a business plan? Well, I think you do a business plan. So I helped them develop a plan for their lives and their career first. and they went and shared that plan with people and asked for their advice, and they led them to their career. The premise of my book is this: ask for a job and you'll get advice, ask for advice and you'll find a career. And so that's what I taught them, and that's my approach, and that's the little book I wrote, my little parable I wrote with all these helps on how to find a career is based on that model.
I love that.
Yeah.
That fits so well with the stuff that I talk about around power to live more, the whole thing about getting to do more of the things that you want to do, and, less of the stuff that you don't want to do, and how often we end up doing things that we didn't intend to do and don't actually want to do because we never get really clear on, what we do want to do. And then even if we are clear on that, we don't sort of take the necessary actions or whatever. So I love the idea of being clear about what you want, but then also having conversations with people to ask for help.
Right, and it becomes really job search is really just two parts: research and presentation. You have to research yourself, research the market, and then present yourself in a way. But if you look at job search as research, it becomes a whole different animal, because you're not ever asking people about job openings or who's hiring. You're just saying, I'd like to learn more about this field in this area, and you could help me by looking at this list of companies I think I might like to work for, and giving me advice of other people would be good for me to talk to if I were getting in your field. And you really make a lot of friends along the way. And that, I talked to a young man yesterday, and he had three different jobs in 4 years. And he found them all through, Indeed or, online, and he never was a fit. And I said, well, because you use this way that it doesn't take into account your values. So if you go to your friends and ask for advice, they'll lead you to the people that share your values, so you'll have a fit in your job. And so anyway, that's and it's interesting you said your daughter's 13. One of the first things in my book I have people do is to look back at themselves as a child and remember their personality as a child, have a little exercise they do, and have them go to their parents and ask about their family career tree. That's the second part, is tell me about, and so they actually draw a career tree, or the family career tree, because we have a kind of career DNA that's out there that we usually, if we're very aware of it, because, our parents influence careers more than anything, career choices, they're number one influence. And so understanding that how powerful that your parents are in the influence, whether you go with it or not, but just be aware of it, and how other people in your family, you may not even know careers they have, and they can be a help to help you, especially somebody younger. But because I work with a lot of CEOs, chief executive officers, and presidents of companies, they send their kids to me when their kids get out of college and can't find a job, and so I take them through this process and kind of help them see. And that's really why I wrote the book, was to help people like that. But what I found was, I worked with a guy that was 65, and he had finished a career in a nonprofit organization, and he wanted to find something else, and he was struggling. And I had him do a career tree, and he knew it, but he came to realize there were 5 people in his background who had worked in banking and financial services. And so he went and talked with them, and now he's a community representative for a bank here in town. But he had never thought about it until he went back and looked at his natural career connections, that stream, that kind of legacy he brought with him. So I
think you've just highlighted why Ellie's so confused, because I firstly was confused. Secondly, her dad has a degree in chemistry and works in IT, and a little story a few months ago, she was talking about her friend who's the daughter of my best friend, and she said, or one of my best friends, in case the other one's listening, she said, why can't you just have a proper job like Elsie, and like Elsie's mum and dad? And I was like, what do you mean? And then I thought about it. So Elsie's mum's a teacher, her dad's a firefighter. It's really easy to describe what they do. Yeah. Ellie's issue is that when she's anywhere and anyone says, oh, what does your mum do? She never knows what to say.
Yeah.
There's no hope for her. She's
well, But the point is, and you've already made it, that in the future, the jobs that are out there don't even exist at this point. So I tell people never talk about job titles when they're doing a job search. Talk about the things you love to do and the places you love to be around.
Yeah.
And the problems you like to solve. And, the careers will just, because your career is really just solving a problem. And so if you take that label off of a career title, all of a sudden it opens up a lot of opportunities and discussion. And like, I believe, half the world will be self-employed in 2030, they'll be working for themselves. So we're going to have a whole different world. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the same principle, isn't it? That it's the solving a problem thing. We were having a discussion in my membership site this week with one of the members who's sort of a year into her business, and we were talking about how she describes what she does, because she's describing it from her own perspective, which is very technical because that's what she's good at. But actually, she needs to think about how she can describe it from her potential customers' point of view, who are not very technical, which is why they need her help. And we were, focusing in on that sort of target market planning, so thinking about who her target is and being really clear about who she wants to work with, even to the point of it might be, those 5 companies, because she's identified that they're in the right sector and they do the stuff that she likes and she likes their values and everything else. And then how can she get to them? By talking to people who have connections with them or whatever. So there's so much crossover. And as you say, it's sort of with the way that the world is going towards more, freelancing and the gig economy, as is being said. A lot of the conversations that we're having now that may have started in a sort of job and career place, if you like, it's the same conversation, but it could equally lead to setting up businesses as much as it is about getting a job or looking for a job, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, because when you asked me what I do, and I kind of described it, but if someone asked me what I did and I was in the business world, I would just say, well, have you ever had someone come and start at your business and get off on the wrong foot and not have a hard time? And they'll say, yeah. Well, have you ever had a strategic plan that stayed on your shelf and nobody ever picked it up and looked at it? Have you ever have a technical person that doesn't have the people skills to move up? And they look at me and I say, that's what I do. And so that is, all of us have those. People get it when you can't say what an executive coach does, but that's what I do, is help people address those kind of problems and solve those. So I think that's kind of what you were talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
And you said that you've written 3 books. Tell us about the other 2.
Yeah. So with my first book, it's called Design a Life That Works. Your business, career, family, and faith on the same page. And actually, you develop at the end of that book, it shows you how to develop a 1-page plan for a leadership and life plan that has your whole life on one sheet of paper for the next 5 years, what your focus will be. And the current book is The White Shirt, which is finding a life-giving career in a life-giving way. And then my third book will be released. It's now, they just sent me the final copy. It'll be released this year, and it's called Roll Up Your Sleeves. The White Shirt is a series. I'm doing 3 books in the White Shirt series. The first is about career. The second one's about transitions and change and the difference between transition and change. This one's called Roll Up Your Sleeves, Leading and Living in a World of Constant Change. And the third book will come out next year, and it's called Check Your Pocket. And it's about a new way to look at how to do planning and strategy and business and life. So that's my third one's coming out. When it comes out, I'll call you back. So
yeah, please do. So yeah, it's interesting in the terms of you've described your family situation. You're a granddad with 5 grandchildren that you love spending time with, and yet you seem to be sort of continuing working with as much gusto as ever. Clearly sharing your experience, but also very much about the future.
Right.
Do you see yourself sort of continuing into the future, sort of ad infinitum? I mean, there's so many people nowadays that just carry on. The world has changed in terms of life plans and careers and everything else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll just continue to do this. I'm shifting now more from, uh, I'm, I have, I have 5 clients. That's all I have. I work right now 9 months a year, take 3 off. And I'm starting to write more of these books. So I'll always do this because it's really not work. And if it feels like work, I'm not going to do it. And I
Yeah.
really, and so for years I traveled all the time, and then I got close to I'm working here mostly in the area where I can drive. And then now people are starting to come to me. That's my new model. Is I have a conference center here in Birmingham where people come and spend 24 hours. They come in at noon and they leave the next day at noon, and they have developed their life plan for the next 5 to 10 years in 24 hours. And that's my new model where people are coming to me more than me going to them. So I'm going to be writing and working, and I'll always do this, I guess, until somebody says you're not good at it anymore, and then I'll move out. And but that's what, I just got back from Costa Rica. I've been fishing for sailfish and marlin down there. I was in Belize last year, fly fishing for tarpon, and I just try. I have, I've tried to take I actually try to do what I talk about about designing.
Yeah. That's good to know.
I actually try to do what I write about, which I know is kind of odd, but so, I certainly don't have it figured out. But I pinch myself every day to think I get paid to do this and see people's lives change and be a small part of all that. And it's just real rewarding. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, I have a friend who's moved to Belize, so next time you go, let me know. I'll put you in touch. Okay. I keep saying I'm going to go and visit her, but I haven't made it yet. But maybe I should be inspired to do that. So, okay, I'm intrigued then. So you talked about having an accident which changed your career in the early days.
Yes.
What you're doing is actually quite, I don't know, enlightened for, somebody. I guess you're probably a baby boomer, are you? If we're talking in terms of
right. Yep.
Whatever's, it's quite an enlightened thing to be doing. How did you get to where you are with this? Sort of following. I mean, you talked obviously, as I said, about the accident originally, but things must have changed quite a lot in the between times too. Was there a particular catalyst for that? People often want to do the sorts of things that you're doing and work in the sort of way that you are, but the actual transition to do that doesn't always come easy.
Oh yeah, and it was a struggle. When I couldn't find a job, I started doing sales and things like that, but always came back to this. And so what happened was I was on an airplane, and a guy sat down next to me, and he said, "What do you do?" And that's when I didn't have a job, and I said, "Well, you don't have any. I'm in between here and don't really know what I'm going to be doing." And he said, "What do you like to do?" And I said, "Well, when I was with a church and the organization, I really enjoyed training and helping people kind of find out what their gifts are. And I enjoyed working with other churches. They sent me to consult with other churches about my church really was growing. I had understood how to make a church grow, and I would go and teach other churches how to do that. And I said, I like doing that sort of thing. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, Mike, you know what I do? Just exactly what you just said. I have a company, and that's what I do." And he said to me, "Would you like for me to help you?" I mean, if you can't believe there's a God, there is a God, because he was an angel. And I thought, yeah, right. I've heard this before. And when did I get my checkbook out? And he said, no. He said, "No, I've tried." He said, "I've helped several people get their businesses started. Most of them don't do what I suggest they do, and most fail. But I think you might do that, and would you like for me to help you?" And he came and helped me get started and showed me a pattern of how to present and how to sell. Because, most people want to be in consulting or do it on their own, but the problem is they can't sell. If you can't sell, you can't be a consultant. I'm sorry. And he taught me, I actually taught a sales course. He taught me how to teach a sales course, and I taught myself the concepts of selling. He said, "If you can't sell, you'll never be successful, Mike." And so I did this sales course, and Jim Marshall was his name, and he helped me get started, supported me, and then then I decided to get in career work, and because I was really good at that part of it. And I called Richard Bowles, author of What Color's Your Parachute, which you probably have heard of him.
I have, yeah.
And he died last year, and he was 93. But Richard, and I called him and said, I'm going to get in this work, Dick. Would you help me? And he said, come on out. And literally, come on out. And I spent time with him, and he taught me career stuff. And, there's just those people in your lives that just, I told you I have this, my podcast is called Small Time Leaders. And what I do is interview people about the leaders in their lives who did small things that made a huge difference in who they are as a person today. They're 10-minute podcast. And so so I think of those people who did that for me. And it was always someone who just kind of, when I was at the bottom, I think God looks down, and they show up, and kind of God laughs and winks. And somebody else comes in your life who helps you, but you still have to take the chance. I mean, I could have told Jim, he put me in a real tight spot and said, in order to do this, I need for you to get 25 people to show up one day, and we're going to do a sales class that I'm going to teach you. And I said, I don't know how to do selling. He said, I don't care. Here's what you do. And he showed me how to get these people there. And I didn't want to do that. But I just said, I'm going to do it because I felt like I just did. So anyway, that's how I got that. But it was through people, but I did still have to take the step. It's kind of like that, Mel Robbins, I guess you've read her book, The 5-Second Rule. And she talks about how you get started, when you can't gain momentum, to get out and kind of count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and blast off and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Yep. But
so
taking a bold step's the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's such a brilliant story. I'm so glad I asked the question. So glad you took the action. I haven't heard of that 5-second rule book. 5-second rule in our house is if you drop something on the floor, you can still eat it.
Yeah, the 5-second rule, actually, just Google Mel Robbins, and she has a TED Talk, which probably has 10,000 views. It's called, I know that is the 3-second rule in our house, I think.
Yeah, mine's probably the one, mine's probably the 10 seconds. I'm probably even more flexible, but that's great. And just a real great example of being open to opportunities. I was on a call with somebody this morning, and we were talking about what we've done since we last saw each other at the end of last year, and how both of us have done things that we weren't expecting, but they were things that sort of appeared at a moment where we thought maybe it was a good thing to do, and we've sort of grasped the opportunity, and it'll work out or it won't, but it'll lead us somewhere in the general direction that we want to go, because we were talking about our vision for our businesses, and your story is just completely added to that on that bit about being open to those sorts of conversations and taking those opportunities when they come, but also then taking the action, as you said.
Yeah. And that is that's just a way, and that's the first, taking that first bold step. It's really cognitive therapy that if feelings follow actions. You can't feel your way into acting. You have to act your way into feeling, and that's what I talk with people about. Take a step. Take one action step towards that. And what's one step I could take, a physical step towards something. And as a buddy of mine says, momentum's a wonderful thing. And, and if it's the right step, it'll lead to another one. If it's not, it won't. But we all have different personalities, and, some are risk takers and people naturally, and some aren't. And I am. So I'd have to always step back and realize I'm a little bit more risk taking than probably the majority of the people in the world. So, So I just,
So going back, you talked about working only 9 months of the year and having 3 months off. How does that work? How do you keep your clients happy, and how do you organize that?
I tell them I'm taking these months off, and I'm going, and I'm going, I'm going fishing, or I'm going to Alaska, or I'm going here, and they just go, they're so envious. It actually makes it more attractive to them that somebody could actually decide to do that.
Yeah.
Do it. And so right now it's 3 months, and then next year it'll be 4 months, and next year it'll be 5 months. And then, so that's my plan. So finally I'll tell them one day I'll just fade away and you won't even know I'm gone. So, and then I'll be doing something else. And anyway, so that's how, and I hope it works that way. And, God willing, and the creek don't rise, as we say here in Birmingham, Alabama. Work out.
That is a good point, though. It's a very simple answer to a very simple question.
Right.
How do you make it happen? I just tell them, and then I do it.
Yeah.
It's again, a lesson in setting out your stall and people understanding that that's what you're going to do. So how do you work with your clients? What do your days look like? What sort of shape is there to what you're doing, apart from your 3 months off, obviously?
Well, I book all my clients a year in advance. So in October, November, I booked the whole year. So that's how I'm able to do this. I have all my clients are on retainer. They're all corporations. I don't do retail work. Mm-hmm. I don't work directly with, I do for some friends, and things like that. But so that's how I do it. And so and every client, when I meet with someone, I'll tell them it's a 3-year process with anybody. If I start, if they're new, because you really can't see any kind of change in less than three years. And so, that's how I do it. And so we block the time off, and then we have what their objectives are for the year, what they want to see happen in their business or their life, and by the end of that year. And then, if I'm coming the next month, I design the sessions, as I go in, and they're still about the same. As I said, I'll work with the board. I'm doing a CEO evaluation in my next meeting with a client. With the board, I'll do an evaluation for him, his annual evaluation. I process that with the board of directors. And then I meet then my next meeting with them, I'm doing that. I'm meeting with the executive leadership team for a day. And I'm doing one-on-one sessions with some individuals I'm coaching the day in between. I'll be there. I usually go out for 3 to 4 days when I go for a week. So I'm out with the clients. So I work a week at a time with the clients in those months that I said there. And we design the whole thing out at the beginning of the year, what the objectives are in general. Mm-hmm. So that's how I work. And I raise my rates every year. And my goal is to work fewer days and make the same or more money. Mm-hmm. And so, and it's always been surprising to me that, money really is never the issue. It's always value. And when I rate, I have none of my clients ever say, well, they say you charge a lot. And I go, yeah, I do. But they don't. I've never had anybody balk from or drop away because of my fee prices. They don't. I just think we need to all really think about what we're worth and what the value we bring is. People, I'm not a consultant. I don't work by, as I say, I don't clock in. I don't work by the hour. And some consultants do, and I would never do that. I would tell you why I wouldn't do it, because I used to work with some large international consulting firms, some big ones, and we work by the hour. And I remember saying, the way you make more money is to work more hours. I don't think that's really a good way for a consultant to work. Yeah. So, I'm working for outcomes, not hours.
Yes.
That's the approach. And it's taken me a while to get there. I'm not saying I got that out of the box, but yeah, that's kind of, and I'm sure you do the same thing. You just, here's the project, we'll get it done, and how we get it done, we don't really know, but we'll get to the outcome. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds actually quite simple in terms of how you work together. I'm not imagining loads of sort of tech and apps required for what you're doing. Would that be fair, or I misread that?
Oh no. And I don't have emergency calls. I have a few when there's a tragedy happening in an organization where I had to go in, and someone was killed, and they called me in to facilitate the beginning of the grief process with the people. That's pretty unusual, but no, it's it's really it's a real simple model, and and I just always feel like I'm going to see my friends, and we talk, and I say my job's to keep you from having food fights, and 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 think of things in a different way. And I always joke with people. I'll say at the end of the day, you should be confused at a higher level, and I've done my job. So.
Love it.
Oh,
so you're somebody who's sort of had a lot of experience, and as you said, had quite a lot of transition and change throughout your career. Mm-hmm. But you haven't stopped, and you've got all these plans for the future. How do you keep yourself sort of knowledgeable, learning, developing personally?
Well, it's I used to read a lot of business books and things like that, but I don't. I read biographies and I read history and those kind of things now. But I get I listen to a few podcasts, but mainly in my writing that I'm doing, it keeps me continuing researching, because I have a little blog and all that. So all the time I have to always be researching information and topics and those kind of things. So that's what I do. And the way I stay organized, I use the bullet journal. I don't know if you're familiar with the bullet journal. Yeah. And that's just, I started using that 2 years ago. It's changed everything for me. It's just simplified things more than anything I've ever done. And
so tell us a bit more about that, because it's something that's still quite sort of popular in terms of there's lots of people talking about it and resources and so on. It's something I've heard quite a bit about. I don't do paper myself, so it's not appealed to me, but a lot of my podcast guests talk about how much they love paper diaries and paper notebooks and all that sort of thing. So I'm sure the listeners are in a similar position. Just talk us through a bit about how it works and why it's worked so well for you.
Well, it's there's a lot of time management systems, and those, we all have a certain way we move through time. And what I like about the bullet journal is it lets you organize it in the way you think. Now, people get, if you look online, there's people that have made this journal so complicated and made these hour podcasts about how to save an hour with your bullet journal. But there's always fanatics like that who take it way too far. But the fact is, at the beginning of the year, you draw out your whole year, and you can see that, and then you create a list for at the beginning of every month, and then you create a list every day, and I have 5 things on that list, and I just follow those in that order no matter what happens to me. That's what's helped me more than anything, is to say these are the 5 things I'll do today, and I will do them in this order. That way, I'm not trying to think about what I'm going to do next. I'm not trying to decide, should I do this one or that one. That's where we waste energy, when we don't have a system that says your next step is this. Yeah. And then, it has these pages where I have on my like this podcast, I have a page for it. All my podcasts, I have a page for each client I work with. And it's just easier to get to. I still use Outlook, to keep my calendar. But this allows me, if I have a thought, I just flip over and write on that person's page what it's about. But the listing, that simple, putting together a list at the beginning of the month of the things you need to work, and then pulling those over each day to the 3 to 5 things you're going to do that's not brain. That's nothing. But it's easy. I like paper, and I don't. Technology. I have a quote that says, "Technology can wither the soul," and oh my gosh, I just despise. I wish. I'm glad we're able to do this, but technology and I don't get along. I have my password for Apple. I have an Apple computer, a Mac. My password for there is never before, because about half the time I call Apple and tell them what's going on with my Mac, they say this has never happened before. And so I have and when I worked in the corporation, they wouldn't even let me near the copy machine, because I have the old force field that destroys technology, I think. So that's a personal bias and kind of a fluke of me, but I like the paper part and the simplicity of the bullet journal. It's just it can be so simple, but they can make it real complicated. But if you look at the little they have like a 5-minute video on how to do the bullet journal, and that's what I looked at, and it helped me so much. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Because some people, the artistic ones, they absolutely decorate their journals, don't they? But that sounds to me like just procrastination, that you just don't get anything done because you're too busy colouring in.
I'm going, how do you have, it's like, how do you have time? So I don't do, video games, or I don't do gaming online. I don't do any of that stuff. I just can't imagine. I have a Facebook, but I have somebody manage my Facebook for me because I just don't want to get on it. It's such a distraction. All that to me is just technology can consume you, and I see people that are addicted, and it worries me. But anyway, I just do what I can do.
Yeah.
And I'm an old guy too, so as I say, I'm old, but I'm slow. So,
but I don't think that view is unusual. As I say, I think so many people do, want to avoid technology and do like using pen and paper. So, so thank you. That was really, really helpful, because I haven't used it and don't know enough about it to talk about it. But
there is one app I use that's changed my life, and it's called Noom. Noom, Noom. I lost 45 pounds in 5 months, and I'm healthier than I've ever been. And it was because of that app. It's called Noom. And it was not a dieting app. It's not a lose weight app. I mean, you do that because of it. It teaches you how to rethink about your life. And so you can try it for 2 weeks for free. And I'd encourage anybody to do that, because my wife is the same way. All my family now have done it, and they're kind of at their ideal weight and feeling better and sleeping better. And if you can't sleep, you can't do that. Nothing works if the gear didn't work. So I would encourage anybody to look at that and take a look. It's funny too. It's fun. It's actually fun.
Lovely. I'm going to check it out now. I've not heard of it either. Brilliant. Thank you. So last couple of questions. So the first one is, what about those days where everything goes horribly wrong and things don't work out? How do you deal with those?
Well, what my intention is to just get up and take a walk and pray. But what I usually do is I get angry, and when things don't get, if things get out of my control, I'll tend to get angry and maybe hit something, but then I'll take a walk and I'll pray. So when things just I go back to my list, what's my next thing to do when things go wrong. But the answer is, of course, to me, answer is always, I have a mantra, and that is pray first. And I have this sign, and if I always just do that, then everything sort of takes care of itself. So that's my backstop.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. And what about those days where you get to live more, and that's where you get to do more of the things that you want to do and less of the stuff that you don't want to do?
Yeah.
What do they look like? I think you've described a lot of them already, but go on, tell us again.
Well, when I've helped someone or some group discover their next step and how to get there, kind of where they're to with it. That's it for me. It's not, I talk about, the fishing and the dogs and all that, and those are fun, but you don't find people who search for meaning and leisure and those kind of activities will wind up, wanting and back at the same place. So just when I hit that, and also, when I cash a big check, that always gets me going too. And when I send the invoices out, I like that.
Brilliant. That's another first for the podcast. I don't think anyone said that before either.
Yeah. But my son is he's in charge of technical training for the largest healthcare system in America, and we talk a lot. And he has a disability where he can only really work 4 hours a day, and he's one of the most productive people at the company. And I asked him how he does that, and he says, "Well, Dad, I just put together a plan and hand it to the people and step back and watch God's grace work." And he and that's and I think that is the biggest lesson for us to no matter what you do, to realize that we're not in control here, and we got to do our best. But there is a bigger purpose for us all. So that's what Anyway,
brilliant. He sounds like a chip off the old block, I have to say.
Yeah. He's wiser than I am, and I'm just, gosh, at 35 years old, and can have that kind of outlook on the world is a blessing. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you, Mike. It's been really interesting talking to you today. Let people know how they can get in contact with you and find out more about you.
Yeah. So my website is Michael Alan Tate. That's Alan, actually, ALAN. Michael Alan Tate. .com. That's my website. My book website, The White Shirt, is whiteshirtbook.com. But you can get there through my website. And if you go there and you're listening to this podcast, there's a free workbook that you can download from the White Shirt book that shows you how to take the process. And there's a set of videos, free videos, of shows you how to make your next career move. So you can contact me there. My phone number is 205-533-0429. I know that'll all be in the show notes, and I appreciate your asking, Joe. And with this,
brilliant. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
All this information is available in the show notes. If you go to powertolivemore.com / in this case 151, you'll find them there. And just a quick one really this week to say I hope you're well. Things have really escalated since I spoke to you last week. We've been in isolation since Saturday, and we're doing that because my mother-in-law lives next door. She's 76 with an autoimmune issue, so we want to spend time with her. So we're isolating for 14 days, and then hopefully all will be well, and we'll be able to keep her company during her isolation. I'm really fortunate that I work from home and always have done, certainly in the last 15 years, and Simon's able to work from home too, and obviously Ellie is now at home because the schools have closed as well, so we have been able to quite easily not go out, unlike some of the population in the country. And I don't mean the key workers or the people who legitimately do need to go out or out getting food and supplies and so on. We're not doing a great job in the UK at staying away from public places and keeping our distance from people, from everything I can see in the news, but I think that is changing as the government is introducing more strict and more strict regime. But there we go. Anyway, so I hope you are keeping well. I've been interviewed on a few podcasts this week about the whole concept of working from home and what we should be thinking about. And it's not usual times, and it'll take a bit of getting used to for lots of people, especially depending on what you're doing. But some of the sort of main things that I have talked about is things like keeping moving, so not just sitting all day. That's not good for us. Being able to take lots of breaks, and if you aren't used to that, really building those in, because it can be quite different in a home office to another office with lots of people around. In those sorts of offices you tend to get interrupted reasonably often, and you go to the coffee room or to the toilet or whatever and have a chat with somebody on the way by, and your breaks sort of naturally happen during that sort of process. But when you work on your own at home, you can literally get really into sort of a hyper focus mode where you get stuck in something and then forget to take that break, forget to move around and so on. So I'd really recommend sort of building in breaks and perhaps setting a timer to get you moving around, having a drink of water and so on. Having said that, we know that focus, not hyper-focus, focus itself can be an issue. And so that's really about thinking about how you organise your to-do list and plan your day, what routines you create to give yourself some structure, and try building in some rituals to get certain things done at certain times. I do things like I've talked before about having a coffee and reading business articles or my business book late sort of morning time, which suits me well and really sort of creates a nice little ritual out of that. So think about how you can build in those sorts of things. And what we've done in the family this week, now we're all here, is we're having a 1 o'clock lunch break for an hour, and then we get together at 6 o'clock for aperitif, as we call them in our family, nibbles and drinks and stuff before dinner whilst I'm actually cooking dinner. And we've done that really because given we've got a 13-year-old in the house and we're both working out of different offices within the house, it sort of felt like we could just sort of hunker down all day and not see each other, or perhaps come out for lunch at different times and therefore not see each other. And given everything that's going on, it just felt like we really ought to be spending some time together. So we put that structure into our diaries. I even sent Simon and Ellie meeting requests for their diary, so that we can sort of rendezvous at certain times. And it just gives us a shape to the day, because obviously the days are a bit the same at the moment. Somebody I saw put on Facebook today something about, one of those, to those people who need to hear this. And then it goes ... today is Wednesday. Because it's really hard, isn't it, when all the days are the same, to really sort of work out what's going on, what the shape of the week is, and what day it is. So yeah, we've tried to create some routine within our new life to try and sort of keep us motivated, connected, and so on. So perhaps have a think about that. And then overridingly, the main thing is be kind to yourself. These are really unprecedented times. It's difficult, even if you work from home all the time, as I do, to have 2 more people or a number of other people in your house. If you've got primary school age children, it must be even harder, because you're trying to sort of entertain them and potentially teach them at the same time as well. So, these are times that we weren't expecting and we weren't ready for. And so, do give yourself that sort of time to, think about yourself, look after yourself. And if it all gets a bit too overwhelming, go and have a bath or have a cup of coffee on your own for 10 minutes, or go and read a book, or whatever it might be, and really focus on keeping yourself well, because this is going to go on for quite some time yet, and we really need to be looking after our physical well-being, and also, as has been topical for a good few years now, our mental well-being. So challenging times ahead in both of those situations. And just as I say, be kind and think about how you can look after your own well-being and that of the other people in your house. And that's aside from keeping yourself away from people and hopefully therefore not getting ill through the pandemic that we're going through at the moment. So just finish off now. As I said, please do keep yourself well, and if you're related to, living with, or even a key worker yourself of some description, and you're still out there working, looking after people, providing food and care and everything else, then thank you so much. And again, please look after yourself as much as you can in the circumstances. And thank you very much. And so, as I said, the show notes for this week's show are at powertolivemore.com/151, and we look forward to speaking to you next week.
Use your power to live more.